What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Figured I would jump on here and we'll talk a little bit about some of the cool stuff that just dropped today. Let some people file in here and then we'll get right to it. How's everybody doing? Right off the bat, I do want to say I'm starting to feel like we might not be getting a second, full trailer. It seems like it's a little late to drop something like that now. And you'd think if they were going to if they had another full trailer, it would have they certainly would have saved it for the Super Bowl spot, which has been rumored to be the full trailer. But as they tend to do, we got the Super Bowl ad early. We got it today, and it is a new trailer, but I wouldn't call it a full theatrical trailer. It's not 2.5 minutes long like we were expecting. But it's still pretty awesome. So let's see how long. Yeah, it's under a minute. I just rechecked it. It's like 56 seconds. So it is, it's a TV spot. But as you guys know, a lot of times big movies that have a spot for the Super Bowl, they premiere like a full trailer. Now, having said that, there is the possibility that there is a full trailer and they could do one of those things where we're going to see that 50-second Super Bowl spot during the Super Bowl, and then after the spot ends, it might, show on the screen, like go to whatever, YouTube page or whatever to see the full trailer now. Obviously, that's something else that they do a lot. So that's possibility. But yeah, what's up, Zach? No, Zach, I agree 100%. I'm totally fine with no second trailer. I already feel like we've seen enough. We've seen too much, possibly. I know I said on the last stream that if there is another full trailer, like 2.5 minute trailer, I might not even bother watching it. Just kind of try to avoid that. Because again, these movies are clearly better the less you know going in. I don't really like going in having an idea of like who's possibly or definitely going to die, which we'll talk about that. No spoiler talk. We'll just talk about what's in the trailer, and we'll talk about some theories, some possibilities based on what we can see in the trailer. What's going on, everybody? What's up? What's up? What's up? Yeah, it does have some new footage. It has some interesting footage too. Something specific that I really want to dive into, especially from it's a clip that was in another trailer that we already talked about, and it shows a little tiny bit more that kind of again changes what I'm thinking about as far as what could possibly be going on there in that scene. So, all right, mid-afternoon, let's just get into this. So first, let's show. Okay, here we go. Let's just bring this up real quick, guys. So what do we think of the new poster? I'm loving the poster, by the way. It definitely screams, no pun intended. It screams, the original poster. I like the logo a lot. I like the tagline, "Face Your Past." I don't know if you guys noticed, but the tagline that says "Face Your Past" is the same like style and font as the "Someone's Taken Their Love of Scary Movies One Step Too Far" from the original poster. Aaron says, I thought that was fan made. No, I actually thought it was the first time when I opened my phone this morning and got on social media, it was the first thing that popped up. And I was like, oh, that's a cool fan made poster. But then I saw who posted it. It was like bloody disgusting. And then, I just saw post after post after post. But it's my understanding that this poster will be given out at the early fan event screenings at 6 p.m. on February 26th. Now, I looked all over the place, and all I could find was that it's at participating theaters only. I didn't see anything specific like, oh, it's AMC theaters only, or it's Cinemark, or whatever. I didn't see anything about that at all. I just saw that it says participating theaters only on that night for the 6 p.m. showing, which is going to be the first showings of it. So I'm not sure. Usually those things are theater specific, if I'm not mistaken. Like I know they handed out posters for Scream 5 and Scream 6. And I believe, if I remember correctly, those were from AMC. So I'm not sure. I haven't been able to find any information. I'm assuming if you go to see this movie at a theater that's showing it for the fan event at 6 p.m. on the 26th, it'll be one of the theaters that should have the posters. I would also venture to guess that AMC would certainly be one of them because they're like the biggest chain. But yeah, I love the poster. I could honestly, if I'm being perfectly honest, my only gripe with the poster would be like the knife. I don't even think it needed the knife with it being Sydney. And it, kind of being that homage to the original poster. I think it would have worked. I guess I don't want to say better, but I think you could have ditched the knife from the poster and it would have been just as effective. And I think it would have even more been a more of a homage to the original poster. But I'm not saying I don't like the knife there. I think it's cool. But like who just said that? Yeah. Samir said it's a mix between 1 and 6. Yeah, the knife really makes it like reminiscent of all those character posters from 6, which is cool, which is fine. I love those posters. But again, I think if you ditch the knife, it would just be like, wow, look, that's like, the new version of like the original Scream poster. But it's cool. Yeah, I'm thinking AMC for sure. Mind Bro says the fan event's on his birthday, which has me. That's awesome. That's really cool. I was playing Ghostface in Fortnite just now, but yeah, I'm going to take a break from that game now. Awesome. Glad you are here, Aaron. Kind of wish they did character posters like they did. Yeah, I was expecting that. And I guess it's not too late. I mean, who knows? This could be the first of, many. We could get some character posters in this style again with all the characters. No proof of that whatsoever, but what's up, Matt? Welcome. So yeah, that's it. I mean, the poster's awesome. I love the poster. I think it's badass. I think they're clearly trying to harken it back to the original movie, which is awesome. And let's see. All right, let's just. Did 5 and 6 have a retro style? They weren't like retro in the sense that they were like, you know, an homage to any of the original posters, but there was, I mean, I'm looking at one right now above above me. There was that one kind of like a 80s retro style poster for Scream 5. It's like Ghostface. There's like a moon behind him, and he's holding a knife with the blood. It says it's always someone you know, Scream. The Scream logo is like kind of metallic, kind of like a disco-ish looking. I don't know how to describe it. So retro, yeah, in the sense that the style of the poster is retro, but not retro as in like trying to look like something that came before. Okay, let's see. Let's check out this trailer. I'm just going to play the trailer. It's 56 seconds. Again, if you just joined us, we're just going to watch it once. We're not going to frame by frame by frame go through it. I think that's how people get, spoiled when they go through it frame by frame and analyze every little thing. That's fine if you want to do that. Hey, do it. I'm all for it. I know there's channels out there that do that. I just choose not to do that because I think it just gives away too much. So let's check out the trailer. Let's see. One second, guys. Here we go. Sorry about that. Lost my saved link that I had saved for the trailer. Okay. All right. Let's check this out.
Hello, Sydney. I'm gonna make everyone you love suffer. While you watch.
This killer has been planning his attack for years. Your daughter, Tatum, is the same age that you were when this whole thing started.
This isn't gonna stop unless I stop it.
Where is my daughter?
This is gonna be fun.
Scream, only in theaters. Tickets on sale February 9th.
All right, there it was. Awesome. Epic. Loved it. Now let's break down a couple things in it. There's a couple things I wanted to talk about, especially first of all, as you saw early on the shot where Tatum closes the coffee shop door and it has the closed for curfew sign on it. That's clearly a reference back to the original Scream. So it looks as if that explains a lot. There was a lot of talk when the first trailer came out. There was a lot of talk about some of these outdoor, like outside, out in town night shots where the town appeared to be like empty. And a lot of people were commenting that seemed like really weird. It's like, you Ghostface just walking down the street like at night and there's nobody around, and how is nobody seeing him? Where are all the cars? Where are all the people? This is really strange. There was a lot of talk about that, and I think we just got our answer right there. I mean, it clearly shows in that shot that Sydney's daughter is closing and locking the door of her mom's coffee shop that she owns, and the sign on it says closed for curfew. So I think that explains that. I think we're once again very reminiscent of Scream 1. I think once these murders start happening in Fallbrook, that they are going to instill a town curfew, much like they did in the original Scream in Woodsboro. So that's cool. And I think I just wanted to bring that up because I think that explains, you know, all the people that were kind of like, what's with the, you know, they're cool. Those scenes look cool where Ghostface is just like wandering the town at night, but where are all the people? Where are all the cars? I think that explains it. I think there's a curfew in effect, and yeah. So I wanted to point that out. Let's see. Samir says, I noticed there was no flames in the background of the shot with Ghostface holding the match, assuming they CGI'd the fire. Yeah, my assumption is that it was a combination. You know, a lot of times they tend to do that a lot now. Obviously, sometimes they do straight up CGI. It's just easier, quicker, safer. Which, hey, as long as it doesn't look fake, I'm all for it. When it comes to stuff like that, where it's like safety, you know, go for it. But I think more often than not, they do like a combination. You know, they'll have their set and they'll have several small fire effects going on around, you know, so there are some real flames there near like the actors and stuff, but then, you know, the background, if it you know, a lot of that'll be filled in later. So that's just my guess. I'm guessing it's just going to be a mixture of practical and special effects. Yeah, Aaron, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. Gotta love they keep showing Mark getting stabbed. I really want to talk about this. I refrained from talking about it the last time, but they are really hammering that home, aren't they? Every time there's a trailer that comes out, a new TV spot or anything, they're really hammering that scene in your face. Like, hey, look, this is clearly Mark, and he's clearly getting stabbed. Oh, you thought maybe he would be okay? Well, guess what? We're going to show you a little bit more where he's getting stabbed repeatedly. So I think there's something to that. I don't think it's just a simple like case of how do I word this? I don't think we're gonna go see this movie and go, oh, they ruined that scene because of the trailer. Like I knew that's what was gonna happen. They showed it in the trailer. They showed him die in the trailer. Why did they do that? It's stupid. I think there's possibly something a little more going on there. Now, I'm not at all suggesting or saying that he's like the killer or like it's fake or you know what I mean. Like I'm not suggesting that. I just think that my guess is there's something a little bit more to that scene than what they are portraying in the trailer. I think they want us to go in thinking like, oh, dude, he's toast, you know, and he very well may be. He very well may be toast. But I don't know. I feel like, again, not that they're above spoiling shit in the trailers because we all know they've done it. But something about this one, it's just so obvious. It's obvious it's him. It's obvious he's getting stabbed. Something about that leads me to believe that there's just a little bit something more to it than just simply like, oh, they just showed us how Mark dies. So that's just my opinion. Again, he very well may just simply die that way. I don't know. Just theories. We're just talking theories here. One thing I also wanted to bring up, Aaron, about all the stuff with Mark is another thing I find interesting is I'm wondering how big of a role he's actually going to have in the film, because if I'm not mistaken, we see Mark in at least 2 different scenes, and I'm not saying in this trailer specifically, but in all of the trailers combined, we see Mark's character shown in 2 different scenes. There's a scene of him getting attacked. There appears to be a scene of him near a window. And there's also a scene where he appears to be standing in, I believe it would be their kitchen, talking to Sydney. What I want to point out about that is every single shot in every scene that we have seen Mark in so far in the trailers, all the different scenes, he's wearing the same thing. He's wearing his police uniform. And also on the poster, the original, the first poster that they released with the cast, with all the characters on it, Mark is on that poster, and what is he wearing in the poster? He's wearing his police uniform. So it's leading me to believe that, he he may have a very short appearance in this film if he's only wearing one outfit the entire movie. Now, the other thing with that, though, is, you don't really see any signs in the trailers of Sydney or Tatum, grieving what would potentially be the death of, in Sydney's case, her husband, or in Tatum's case, her father. So it's all very strange. I don't really have a theory on that, other than I just find it interesting. I find it interesting that he only is ever seen wearing that outfit, including on the poster. He's definitely attacked, definitely stabbed for sure, as shown in the trailers. But at the same time, there doesn't appear to be any scenes of like grief from what you would expect from, like, oh my God, my husband, my father was just murdered. And the Scream films aren't really the type of slashers that shy away from that kind of thing, So again, it's all interesting. I'm very curious to see how this all plays out, as far as like the fate of Mark, and why are they showing us this scene and more of it. Yeah, see, says, I think if Mark were dying, they wouldn't be showing the stabbing for. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Scream 4 trailer. They showed Gale getting stabbed, clearly getting stabbed, in the Stabathon in the barn. They clearly show Gale on the ground, boom, stabbed. And everybody was like, holy shit, they killed Gale. They're killing Gale. Like, what? Oh, they just ruined it. Obviously, she survives. Mark's possible death scene reminds me, like, the bag kill and oh, yeah. I forgot all about that. That was probably like my favorite moment in the entire season 3 of the show. There's also a scene of Mark in the Legacy trailer where he's being kicked in the chest by Ghostface on his own front lawn. He's going through it in this movie. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. It's like, I don't know. I'm more intrigued by the fact that we only see him in that in his police uniform. So it just makes me wonder, like, how much is he even in this movie? How long does he last in this movie? If he's only wearing one outfit, it's not a good sign for him. Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, see, so that's why, I mean, you know, that's what I meant when I said clearly they're not, you know, they're not they're not so far against or incapable of spoiling a death as we've seen in past trailers. But I don't know, for something about this one is just a little different, in my opinion. It just seems a little too like, no, you guys don't understand. Look, no, he's clearly getting attacked here. He's clearly getting stabbed. Mark's a goner. So I don't know. Stu's alive. It sounds like he has a trach, but almost like AI's recreating his voice. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. Everyone asks me all the time if Stu's alive. I can tell you from the onset that I was, and this is not a spoiler, I have no idea any truth to it. I was told that he's not alive, that they bring him back a different way, but nobody knows for sure, you know, like none of us anyways. I think what we've all heard the most is that Stu is being brought back via AI and not just voice. That's the thing. I talked about this before, and there was some people that were saying there's no way they bring Matthew back just for his voice. That would be an insult to the fans. AI doesn't necessarily mean it's just the voice. You know, I'm thinking more like deep fakes, like deep fake videos being sent to Sydney, to Tatum, to the victims of these past killers as if they were still alive. So I think that's my opinion. I think it's going to be AI deep fake videos. I think we will see Stu. I think we will see Roman for sure. I think they're going to be via AI deep fakes. I don't think Stu's still alive, but again, it's just my opinion. It's just my theory. I do know, and I've said this before, so again, not a spoiler, but I do know for a fact, as I got this information directly from somebody who worked on the film in a capacity that they had access to they had the entire script. That's what I'll say. Won't say who, but I was basically told that we will have a definitive answer no matter what happens in this movie. Forget everything else. After this movie comes out, we will all finally know for sure. It will be cemented into the franchise for all time as to whether Stu is actually alive or if he's dead. Now, to be specific, that does not mean that the movie's going to focus on Stu being alive or the possibility of him being alive. It just means that one way or another, we will get the definitive answer in this movie. Something will be said or shown that will prove beyond doubt. No more future Scream movies will fans be talking about, like, maybe Stu comes back this time. Maybe, you know, we'll have an answer is what I'm told. I would imagine if Mark were to die, it'd be the biggest death in the whole movie. So I hope they don't spoil. See, exactly. That's what I mean. There's just something weird about that. Yeah, I think the AI angle is satisfying, but Sue, yeah, and that's the other thing. When you look at a lot of stuff, like, you know, Scott Foley said, like, you know, I wasn't even like given a script really. Like they just kind of brought me in and filmed me doing, you know, they brought me in and they gave me stuff to say and read, and I read it and I filmed it, and that was that. And I don't really know how they're going to make it work, but apparently they're going to make it work. I think that right there tells you you know, it's AI. It's an AI deepfake video. And you know, not Matthew Lillard himself. I know he's always teased back and forth like, oh, Stu could be alive, Stu could be alive. But if you really look at a lot of his interviews leading up to this movie, you know, he said like flat out, he's like, all I can say is it's you know, Stu is back to a certain degree. I'm not quoting him verbatim, so don't say that he never said that. I'm just saying in general. He's basically been saying like, yes, I'm back to a certain degree. I'll never tell you what degree that is. You'll have to see a movie, but it's not going to ruin the legacy of the movies. So again, take that however you want. I interpreted it as, you know, don't worry, it's not going to be like, oh, Stu rises from the dead or Stu's been in hiding this whole time. You know, and I've said this before, my personal thoughts on the whole matter is that Stu is dead. I've never thought he was still alive. I've never thought it was possible that he could still be alive. And furthermore, I think that if they ever were going to go that direction, they missed that opportunity a long time ago. You know, it's one thing to have like a Scream 2 or a Scream 3 just a couple years later where it's like, guess what? We found out Stu's actually still alive and he's in this hospital, like whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay, not believable in my opinion, but depending on how they do it, I can maybe buy it a little bit. But to have 6 movies now, to have this stuff happen 6 times, and not once has somebody been like, by the way, you know, Stu's still alive, so maybe it's him. Should we talk to him? Like, that's why I'm saying I think they missed the boat on that. If that was ever something they seriously wanted to do, I think they missed that opportunity a long time ago. I think at this point, it would be like, no freaking way. But again, that's just my opinion. That's true. Even if they get definitive that Stu's dead, there's still going to be the but maybe people. Yeah, there always will be, I'm sure. Killers. What's up, Jerry? Oh, another thing I wanted to talk about in the trailer. What I said earlier about we get a little bit more of a scene that we've seen already, but we get a little bit more. It kind of changes, like, in my opinion, it changes what I think, anyways, is going on in that scene. And that would be the psychiatric hospital footage. So, as you know, we had that footage a couple trailers back, and you know, we clearly see that it's Fallbrook Psychiatric Hospital or Center, whatever the sign says. So it's the psychiatric hospital in this town that Sydney is living in. And then we are shown what appears to be crazy drawings and whatnot on the wall. And then we see a shot of Sydney kind of standing, looking at these drawings on the wall with Gail behind her. Well, what this new trailer shows, it shows all that same stuff, but we get a wider shot of Sydney standing in the psych hospital, looking presumably into this room, into this patient's room that has these drawings. And what we see now that's different is we see police crime scene tape across the door. So that to me eliminates the possibility that she's going there to talk to somebody, because I know a lot of people said like, well, maybe there's some crazy person in Fallbrook that maybe thinks they know who's doing this or is connected to who's doing this. So Sydney goes there to like meet with them. Maybe it's like a past victim of this person before they started. You know, there were all these theories out there. I think the fact that the patient's room is sealed off by crime scene tape, I don't think that she's going there to visit somebody. It sounds to me more like this person was possibly killed in the psych hospital in their room, which is why there's crime scene tape across it. Now, again, I don't know that for sure. I've seen other people say that the whole psych hospital thing has to do with a character that escapes. There's a character in the psych hospital that escapes, not Stu, but somebody that escapes from it. Would they put crime scene tape over a room that somebody just, you know, if somebody just escaped from the hospital, would they go and put crime scene tape over their door? I don't know, probably not, but I have no idea. Anyways, again, just throwing out speculation here. I don't know really what to say about it. But I just wanted to point out that I think the crime scene tape on the door tells it. I think it changes a little bit of what we saw before. I think it puts a new possibility on what's going on in that scene. I think it gives it a whole new possibility. Having the crime scene tape. Clearly something happened there. They're not just going to visit somebody. They're not just going to research something. You know, clearly something happened there in that room at that hospital that there's crime scene tape blocking it off. So that's really all I get to say about that. If any character suggests they've seen Stu physically, they're my prime suspect. Any character says yes. Could see Acid Germain being in this based on the show Gen V. I could see him being the mental patients. That's a good question. A good theory. That I'm not sure of. The only thing I know about that character is I believe he is, again, could just be rumors, but I thought that the character he's playing is Tatum's like kind of love interest. You know what I mean? And now we do have character names for everybody else. That's something else that came out recently. And if I remember correctly, Anna Camp's character has the same last name as a Germain, or however, I don't know how to pronounce his name, sorry. But yeah, they have the same last name. So I'm assuming that that's her son. I'm assuming that Anna Camp's son is Acid Germain. But again, we don't know. We haven't really seen him in the trailer. We haven't seen her in the trailer. Do I have a big stamp EU on hand? I don't think I have a big stamp, honestly. Let me look at some of this stuff I have here. No, because I actually, the one behind me right here, I just checked the other day to see. I don't think I even own one of the big stamps. Okay, he's heard. Okay, yeah, Lucas is the name. Yeah. Okay. Love interest with Chloe Celeste. Okay, so yeah. What do you think of Stu's voice sounding more AI, more robotic? I think just what you just said. It's sounding AI and more robotic. I think that explains it all. I think that's how we're getting Stu back. I think that's how we're getting Roman back. I think that's how we're getting Another killer that I know is appearing in the movie that has not been announced. I think that's how we're getting them back. I think the new killer is using AI deepfake videos of past killers to mess with Sydney and the other victims this time. And I think now that the movie is getting closer to being released, I think they're showing us a little bit more of that. You know, I think probably in the original trailer, we probably just got his straight up voice when he recorded that line. But I think in this new trailer, they're probably giving us the modified voice from the AI videos that we're going to eventually see. Do you think the psych patient knew a deep, dark secret and Ghostface killed them, or do you think it was suicide? I don't know. That's a great question. Great question. Never thought of that. I don't know. I never even thought of that because, like I said, this new trailer that came out today is the first time we saw that there's crime scene tape in the mental hospital, in the psych hospital. Could be suicide. Likely, it's probably, I don't know. I mean, again, we haven't seen everything, and I'm glad, but you know, so far it seems all we've seen from the psych hospital stuff is the aftermath of something. You know, it seems like we're just seeing the aftermath of something. I haven't seen any clips or any shots that appear to show like Ghostface in the hospital. What are the odds we'll actually see Matthew in any TV spot? Probably, I'm going to say we're not. That's just my guess. I think if they were going to show him, they would have already showed him. Personally, I think the fact that they keep using his voice is just, I think that's the tease that they're going to give us. You know, I mean, we already know he's in the movie to some capacity. We already know that. So I don't think they need to show him. And yeah, I think that I think the voice is like tease enough, you know. I think they're gonna save that for the actual movie. Plus, you know, let's just be honest, they probably don't want the backlash of, you know, there's of course a diehard group of people that fully believe that Stu's alive and they want him to be alive. And I've even seen them say, if he's not in this one, if they got him back and he's not alive, I'm going to be so pissed. Like, I'm going to walk out of the theater. And I've seen just as many people say, Stu is absolutely dead. You guys are nuts. If they change the legacy of the first movie, if they disrespect it like that and bring him back to life or whatever, I will walk out of that theater. Like, I think they know that whichever direction they went with bringing Matthew back is going to not please a large portion of the fans, but it's going to please another large portion of the fans. And I don't think they want that backlash, potential backlash, before the movie actually comes out. So, you know, I think if they were to show, for example, a clip of showing him like clearly still alive, I think that would be disastrous, because there'd be a lot of people that would be like, F that, he's still alive, that's so stupid, I'm not going to go see it, I'm done with Scream. And then I think if they showed an actual clip of him in an AI deepfake video, then I think there's also going to be a group of people that are going to be like, oh no, he should be alive, not stupid AI, this sucks. So I think they just don't want that backlash as well. How many killers are we thinking this time around? Well, how many killers are we thinking this time around? I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna say at least 2 for sure. I don't know that they do 3 again. They just did 3. I mean, there could be 3. There could be 4. Who knows? I don't see that though. I don't see there being 4 killers. I think that's a little too many, but I don't know. As far as them not do, like I said, they just did 3, so they're probably not going to do that again. Maybe. I'm thinking 2 again this time. I'm thinking 2, and I'm thinking that at least one of them is an adult character. I'm not saying that there's not a teenage killer as well, but I think one of the killers has to be an adult. And the reason I'm saying that is because the killer in this movie is clearly saying, like, I've been planning this a long time. I've been planning this for a long time. Well, a 17-year-old kid, like, has he been planning it since he was 10? You know what I mean? Like, maybe, but it sounds to me like whoever the main killer is, whoever the mastermind of this one is an adult for sure. If they've been planning it a long time, I'm going to guess that they're around the same age as, like, Sydney. Tim is in the house. What is up, Tim? I think we will have at least 2 sets of killers. One being the potential mental patient, maybe on their own, then whoever will be the main set. That's a possibility too. Would be super dark if both killers were adults. Yeah, it would be. How's it feeling the Mocker house burning down is at the end and not our opening scene? I've heard a lot of people say that. Again, everything's possible. I'm leaning more towards it being the opening scene just because, I think if that was the final scene, I don't think they would have showed us so much of it. But that's just my opinion. I think that, looking at the history of these movies, in the trailers, the placement of that footage of the Stu's house, the Airbnb, the attacks, the burning, whatever, I think it fits the history of the trailers that came before it as far as showing, the opening scene. Again, I don't know what the structure of the movie is going to be, but I think our opening scene is going to be the Mocker house, those murders, the house being burned down. And then it's going to go to Fallbrook sometime later. And then we're going to get the calls and whatever from the killer to Sydney and stuff. So I'm guessing you just now got to see all this new stuff, Tim. Let us know what you think of the trailer. What's going on, Woodsboro 97? What if the movie ends in a cliffhanger? It could. I mean, clearly that was Kevin's original intent with 4. And I know he didn't write this movie, but obviously that's an idea that they've kicked around since the 4th one that they didn't go through with. I don't know that I would like a cliffhanger. I think one of the things that really works for Scream is the fact that, you know, these movies are, you know, very well contained to each individual movie. And but hey, if they want to try something different, go for it. You know what I mean? If they can make it work, I'm all for it. If it works, you know, if it works, I'm all for it. If a Scream movie, yeah, see, that's the thing, and I could be mistaken here too, but I see a lot of people saying they've been saying for months and months and months and months. They're like, well, it's probably going to end in a cliffhanger because we already know we're getting Scream 8. It's already been greenlit. Has it officially been greenlit and announced, or has it just been said that they intend to make an 8th movie? Because there's a big difference, you know. I'm not trying to be like a stickler here, but you know, I mean, there really is a huge difference between just saying like we have plans for an 8th movie, we'd love to do an 8th movie. You know, things like that are vastly different than, you know, a studio actually coming out and saying Scream 8 is officially greenlit, the script's being written as we speak, so and so and so and so have already signed on, blah 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 blah. You know, there's a huge difference between those two things. So unless I missed something, I have not seen anywhere where Scream 8 has been officially greenlit. So I don't know, but I agree with you. I would want the guarantee that there's going to be another one, and I would want it to be proven in the next one that it was necessary. You know, I wouldn't want there to be a cliffhanger just for the sake of having a cliffhanger. I would want the cliffhanger to be amazing, and I would want them to follow it up and follow through in the next one to make it like, okay, I see why they did a cliffhanger, and now I'm glad they did. Like, you know, that's what I would want. But yeah, I think doing a cliffhanger is risky because, again, if it's not set in stone that there's going to be an 8th one, or you know, anything like that, it's risky. It's a risk. Also piss a lot of people off, even if there is going to be another one. You know, some people could just go and leave and be like, it ended on a stupid cliffhanger. Like, now we got to wait, like, for that, like, you know. Who's dying this time around, Mindy or Chad? I personally don't think that Chad or Mindy, I don't think one of them would die in any of these movies. I think if they killed them off, they would kill them both off. That's just my opinion. I personally don't think either one of them are going to die, because I think that, you know, I think there's still that possibility that they will go back to the core 4 at some point. Now, I'm not saying that they will ignore whatever, you know, surviving character. If the torch is passed in this one to Sydney's daughter, and, you know, whatever, we follow her story for a while. I'm not saying that they are just going to completely ignore that. But I do think that there's likely that hope that they can get the core 4 back together for one more. So I don't see them doing that. There was a time there where I thought the killers in this one were possibly going to be Chad and Mindy. Again, I've said it before. I'll continue to say it. I will die on that hill. We've had so many different endings and killers and motives throughout 6 films so far. But the one thing that the Scream franchise has never done is had a survivor from a previous film be a killer in a future film. So we've never had somebody that was a victim and survived a movie and then to become a killer in a following in a sequel down the road. We've never had that. Scream has never done that over the course of 6 movies. So I think it's possible that we'll eventually get that. And at this point, it's like, well, who's that going to be? It's either going to be Chad or Mindy or Gail. It's certainly not going to be Sydney. I don't know. Could it be Gail? Could Gail be a killer? What do you guys think? I've thought about that. I thought about that a lot, especially this one. I've been planning this a long time. You know, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Like, as they say, everybody's a suspect, right? I don't know what her motive would be, especially to, you know, burn the house down and all that stuff. You know, I believe that Gail makes a pretty good living off of these types of things when they happen. So I don't know what her reason would be to burn the house down, but the more they use Ghostface lines in the trailers and TV spots that refer to Stu, the more I think that Stu is just AI or he's likely ain't in it at all. Well, he is in it. Matthew's absolutely in it. But yeah, I again completely agree. I think that he's just going to be brought back via AI that the killer's using. And I think it's going to be awesome. Yeah. My thoughts exactly with Scream. Once dead, always dead. You know, we don't bring killers back to life. We don't we don't come back 30 years later after the fact and say, oh, hey, by the way, we forgot to mention Stu's actually alive. We forgot to mention that while all this other shit has been happening for the past 30 years. Yeah, Gail reporting her own murders. Yeah, interesting, right? It's possible. Anything's possible. I think it'd be a shocking as hell, you know, reveal. That's for sure. It would be shocking as hell to reveal that Gail was a killer. Sorry, I'm just reading some of your guys' comments here. What else? You know, I had a conversation the other day with Nick Meese. We were kind of shooting theories back and forth. Just, you know, no spoilers, just theories here and there. And, you know, I think obviously the killer could be lying, but very clearly in the movie, we see that Sydney's getting a phone call from someone with a Woodsboro phone number. And Ghostface also says to her that, oh, this town you found, it's really nice. It reminds me of where we grew up. So again, it's like, well, is the killer from Woodsboro? Again, they could be lying, but is the killer from Woodsboro? And if they are, who is it? And why have they been planning this for a long time? What's going on? And why are they focusing on the fact that your daughter's now the same age that you were when all this started? Why? Who would do that? But I was talking with Nick Meese about it, and I said, what about Christina Carpenter? You know, we've never seen her. I understand that. Totally get that. But clearly, Christina Carpenter is from Woodsboro. Clearly she would be about the same age as Sydney. At the end of the day, after all, Sydney did kill the father of Christina's child. She killed Billy, who was her baby daddy. And also could make the argument that led to a tailspin of everything that's happened since then, the stab movies, all the other murders and stuff that eventually led to both of Christina's daughters being targeted by these crazy killers. It's like, oh, we're not interested in Sydney anymore. we're going after the Carpenter sisters now. Like they're the new focus. Well, what if that's why, what if it's Christina Carpenter and that's like basically her motive? What if she's like, no, you're not coming after they're not coming after my daughters anymore. Like, I want the focus to be back on you, Sydney. That's why I'm doing this. But I've been planning this for a long time because you killed Billy, who was the father of my child. Just a theory. Let's see. Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people make that comparison when I bring that up, but like I said, I've been saying that for years, even before they did it with I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I think that's, in my opinion, a little bit of the difference there. There's only 3 of those movies. Yeah, there's 4, but let's face it, who talks about I'll always know what you did. Like nobody talks about that movie. It's ridiculous. Doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. But there's only the 3 of those movies. We're at Scream 7 now, and unless they do it in this one, they've never had a character. And again, I'm not saying it would have to be like a Gale or somebody that has been with us like the whole way. I'm not saying it would have to be that crazy. But I'm just saying in general, like Scream has never had a character survive and then become a killer in just say even the next movie. So I don't think it would be as drastic as the choice of making Ray one of the killers, which I was actually okay with. It didn't bother me at all. I didn't see it coming. I thought it was crazy. I was like, holy shit, they did it. Somebody did it. Wow. It was a lot. But again, I'm not saying it has to be a Ray, but why can't somebody in Scream 7, why can't somebody that survived 7 be a killer in 8? I truly believe the creatives are banking on the general audiences and believing it to be Stu. Yeah. But the whole reason they targeted Tara was because she drunkenly blurted out that Sam's Billy's daughter. Well, yeah, but I'm just saying in general, like, again, it's just an opinion, it's just a theory, just one of many theories spinning around up here that, like, hey, could the killer be Christina Carpenter, and could her motive simply be to be like, hey, my daughters are now the targets of these killings, so I don't want that. I want the focus to be on you, Sydney. I want it back to you because I don't want my daughters to have to go through this. So I'm gonna put the focus back on you now and your daughter. What if Mark Kincaid came back as a Ghostface? He was he was terrific. And what was funny about that though was as soon as that movie came out, as soon as I saw it, I immediately started saying to a couple people, I said, well, I guess we can probably rule him out as a killer in Scream 7. Because if you remember at the time, the rumor was that he was the Mark that we were going to be getting in Scream 7. So we all thought we were getting Mark Kincaid back, aka Patrick Dempsey, in 7. So it was during that time. But after Thanksgiving came out and I saw it, I was immediately saying, I think we can roll him out as a killer because I just have a feeling he's not going to sign on to do that again, like that soon after he did Thanksgiving. Yeah, focus back on Sydney. That's my. I wouldn't say that's my theory going in. Because again, I think it would be really difficult to sell that to at least I think it'd be difficult to sell it in general, but especially to like just the general audience who, let's face it, they're the ones that, these movies really at the end of the day are made for, because they're the biggest part of the audience. Us diehard fans, we're rabid and we're crazy, but there's such a small portion of the audience of these movies. But I think it would be a difficult thing to sell to an audience to have the killer be a character that we've never seen before. Like in general. I don't know. Could Anna Camp be Christina Carpenter? I don't know. I don't think so. I highly doubt it. I don't think that would make much sense. But you know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at. It's like, I think if it was Christina Carpenter, I think the reveal would be like, who's that? We've never even seen this person in any of the movies at all. Even this one, what's going on here? So I think it would be difficult to sell that. So I'm not saying that's my rolling theory that I'm going to go into this with. I just think it's a possibility that, hey, what if the killer is Christina and her whole motive is to put the focus of this saga back on Sydney and away from her daughters. Find it really weird that Anna Camp, Ethan Embry, and Mark Consuelos haven't been shown. Yeah. Which again, it could mean a lot of things. There's a lot of things that could mean. I'm leaning more towards the fact that my guess is they probably aren't as significant of characters, especially Anna Camp, that we're thinking they're going to be. Again, I wouldn't as soon as Anna Camp was announced, everybody was like, oh, okay, we see where this is going. She can play batshit crazy like you've never seen. Like, she's got to be the killer, and she's got to be she's probably really Sydney's or Stu's sister. All these things that would make total sense. She would make a great killer. Everybody's right. But again, I wouldn't put it past them to cast someone like her in this movie as a red herring just to have her, die like really quickly. It's very possible that the reason we're not seeing these three characters yet is because they don't appear very long. They don't last very long. Ethan Embry, we've only seen him because of the poster. I guess same with Anna Camp, but I think it's clear that Ethan Embry works at the mental hospital. I mean, you can see him in the poster, he's got like a ID badge around his neck, and it looks like he's wearing like an orderly outfit. I'm pretty positive the killer or one of the killers is the mental patient, since the picture of Sydney, Tatum, Billy, and Stu was in the mental patient. Is it in that room? I'm not doubting you. I just I remember seeing it in the trailer, but I don't remember if, like, is it clearly shown that it's in that room, or is it, you know what I mean? I've had this theory for ages that Anna Camp is Leslie Mocker, Stu's sister, and her son Vince died in 5. It's possible for sure. But again, with that, like, see, I feel like that's been done already so many times. I feel like everybody's starting to get fatigue of the whole, like, oh, you killed my brother, you killed my son, you killed my whatever, and now I'm getting revenge on you for that. I feel like we've had that like 3 times now. How do you think they'll explain Sam and Tara's absence? I think they'll probably give them the same treatment they gave Sydney in 6. I think they'll probably just say, hey, they've moved on. You know, they wish you luck, Sydney, but they don't want anything to do with this anymore. They've moved on. Something like that. They moved on with their lives, or they went into hiding. Okay, you can see the okay, so that's interesting. If the mental patient has a photo of the original group of friends from the first Scream amongst all those weird drawings, that's interesting. Yeah. I don't believe Stu's sister thing. Plus, didn't you say you heard the motive? Yeah. So that's the other thing I was told, is that the motive this time is something that they have not done before. It's not like a repeat. I've been told that the motive, you won't be able to go back and go, well, they already did this, or they kind of already did this in 2, or they did this in 3, or they kind of did this in 4. That's just the same motive being recycled. Yeah, I have on pretty good word that whatever the motive is it's fresh, it's new, it's different. So what else? Did everybody see the new popcorn bucket for AMC? The ghost face in the door frame. I thought that thing was pretty freaking cool. Anybody hasn't seen it? Let's see. What's my idea for a perfect motive? Oh. Never really thought of like what a perfect motive would be. I think all I could really say is, I think at this point, a perfect motive would be something that is new and fresh that they have not done in the Scream series yet. It would be something that you can't look back on and go, oh, they kind of did that in this one. And also something that's not only fresh, but that you're going to be like blown away with, like, whoa, what? Like, maybe it changes something. Maybe it has something to do with the past that actually changes, something that we thought all these years, and come to find out it's something different or something additional happened. Yeah, no, that would be cool. Yeah, I can see that. That would work for me, I guess. I'm not obsessed with the stab movies. I'm obsessed with the real life murders, like a true crime obsessed nut. That's what I thought 6 was going to be. I always thought it was going to be something like that in 6. My theory, which obviously I was completely wrong, but my theory going into 6 was that it was going to be Sam psychiatrist, and that we were going to find out that he also was like that he was also the psychiatrist of somebody else, like possibly that her little love interest in 6, and that he was possibly obsessed with like true crime and stuff, so he was using like his psychiatry, getting these people in here in his chair to open up to him, and he was finding ones that were potentially had a screw loose, and then he was kind of planning ideas in their heads to continue these murders, to target whoever, Sydney, Sam, Tara, whatever. That was my theory going into 6, but obviously wasn't even crazy. Billy's dad's always a character not seen since the first. I wonder what happened to him in the Scream world. Well, Kevin did an interview recently, actually. I think like 6 months ago. I just saw it's a podcast interview. And they asked him all sorts of questions. They were like big, huge fans. And at the end of the interview, they did like a lightning round, kind of like answer this, answer that real quick. And they did a dead or alive thing where they were like, Stu, dead or alive? And he's like, dead, completely dead. And then they were like, Sydney's father, dead or alive? And he's like, I think he's alive, right? He's like, I don't think we killed him off or had him like said that he passed away like in 4 or anything. He's like, I think we maybe had that at some point, but we didn't use it. Like, Sydney's dad's alive. And then they were like, Billy's dad, dead or alive? And he was like, oh gee, I don't know. How old would he be now? Dead. He basically said something like that. Like, I don't know, how old would Billy's dad be now? Like 80? Like, yeah, he might be alive, but he ain't, I don't know. I just found that interesting. Yeah, or just went with the original plan for 6. It was basically the same ending, but it wasn't Richie's family. It was a family, but it wasn't Richie's family. The original ending for 6 was that the killers were a family who were kind of nutty internet conspiracy nuts. Like, they were obsessed with conspiracies. They believed every conspiracy that, like a QAnon type people that just, any conspiracy that gets thrown on the internet, they believe it and obsess over it. And they really, truly believed the conspiracy that Sam was the real killer in Scream 5 in those murders. And they were so psycho obsessed with the fact that this conspiracy existed and is true, and that Sam got away with murder, and they were determined to, make her pay for the fact that she got away with it. I think that is a lot scarier and makes a lot more sense than it being Richie's family. I mean, I've come to terms with it. I've accepted it. It's fine. It is what it is. It's not going to change. It's out there. But there's just so many things about that doesn't make any sense. And I love Scream 6. I really do. I think it's great. It's one of my favorite sequels. But it just, when you really start when you start to think about it, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, wait, well, how? There's just too many like how, wait, where, when, why, how. None of this makes any sense. Like it's just not making sense. And again, we've had that before. We've already had. Well, you killed my son, so now I'm going to kill you. This is revenge for killing our son, like our brother, whatever. We've had that before. So I wish they would have kept the original idea of it being a family of just conspiracy nuts that took it too far and decided they were going to punish Sam because they really believed in this conspiracy. That, I think that makes more sense. I think it's scarier. I think it's more timely of a motive, but that's not what we got. So yeah, see, I did know that there was originally a plan of them mentioning in 4 that Sydney's dad died. But again, they didn't use it. So technically it's not canon. And like I said, Kevin pointed that out on an interview. He couldn't really remember. He's like, did we use that? Didn't we? I don't think we did. So no, he's alive. He's alive. Yeah. Yeah. I think her dad's alive. Les Ghostface is Ethan Embry, and he planted the picture in the mental patient's room to make Sydney and Gail suspect him or her. It's also possible. I mean, listen, clearly Ethan Embry's character he's not just some random orderly. He's got to have something more going on. I'm not saying he's a killer, but I don't think we're just going to see him like once and that's it. I mean, maybe that's the crime scene. Who knows? Maybe the mental patient kills Ethan Embry, kills that orderly, and then escapes. There, I just thought of that. That's a possibility. Even if the mental patient isn't Ghostface, maybe it's something else going on, but maybe Ethan Embry's who gets killed in that room and is how the patient escapes. No idea. Desperately want to see an opening where we go back in time and see them. That would be awesome. And they could do it now with the whole de-aging thing. I mean, they already did it, with Billy in 5 and 6. I know the 6 was not as good, in my opinion, which was weird because I remember them saying, "Oh, we had a much bigger budget this time for 6. We had a much bigger budget for the whole like de-aging thing." And I thought that the de-aging in 6, I thought he looked terrible compared to how he did in 5. I'm not saying he looked great in 5, but I think he looked a lot better de-aged in 5 than he did in 6. But yeah, clearly they can do stuff like that now. They could easily have the actress that played Sydney's mom. They could have the actor that played Sydney's dad. They could have, Cotton Weary. They could have Liev Schreiber come back. Skeet, Matthew, Nev. They could do a really cool recreation of that and just have them all de-aged and really show like what happened. They could show like Cotton with her and leaving the house, and they could show the murder, and they could show Billy, who had the same hairstyle as Cotton did back then, taking Cotton's jacket that he forgot and leave wearing it to make Sydney think that, oh, I saw Cotton leave because he was wearing that coat. They can totally do that, but they'd obviously not include the. Oh yeah, obviously. Tell whoever did the costume as to cover that forehead up. Some shots where the hood is far back. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see. I've seen a couple. I've seen a couple behind the scenes photos of the costume. I've seen one photo that shows the costume kind of laid out, but I didn't see anything to kind of show like what's going on in the hood area. I'm assuming they used Velcro again, but I don't know. You know, it's hard to tell. Like, you know, they used Velcro in Scream 1 and 2, and then in 3 they mostly used safety pins. A lot of the hero masks didn't have Velcro attached. The hoods of the costumes had the Velcro because that was originally the idea, but for whatever reason in 3 they didn't use the Velcro that often. You know, I've seen 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I've seen 4 existing. No, 5. I've seen 5. I think I've seen a total of 5 hero masks from Scream 3, and none of them have Velcro on them. Some of them are modified, like some of them had the felt on the mouth and stuff, but none of them had the Velcro because it's my understanding, according to wardrobe and props, that they mainly just used a safety pin. They just safety pinned it underneath on top of the shroud to the hood and just did that. So again, I don't know the reasoning behind that, but that's just what they did. Then of course they went back to Velcro for 4, 5, 6, but yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things, you know. Unlike Scream 1 through 4, where you largely had the same creative team that did all 4 of them. So far, 5, 6, and 7 have all had different creative teams as far as like the props, the wardrobe, they're completely redoing thing. Like it seems like everybody's putting their own kind of spin on it. You know, the robe and stuff, and the way they're modifying the masks have been different. 5 and 6 were pretty similar what they did, but 7's way out there. I've never seen anything like that in my life. When I saw the inside of a Scream 7 mask, the way they modified it's insane. I think I called it on another stream I did as like a Frankenstein. It's like a Frankenstein creation. It's just there's so much going on inside of those masks. It's crazy, for sure. But when killing Marine, did they wear the costume or normal clothes? Because surely it's. I never thought they wore the costume. That came afterwards. That came after they decided to continue to do a whole killing spree. That's where they came up with the whole, you know, phone calls and basing it on horror movies and using a voice changer and wearing a costume and all this stuff. Yeah, I've never imagined that they wore a Ghostface costume when they. No, I think they just came in and killed her. Josh is curious what's inside the screen. All in good time. All in good time. I will do a video closer to the film coming out where I will talk about some of what's going on inside there. But like I said, all I can tell you is that right now is it's crazy. It's crazy. A lot of things that I'm like, was that even necessary? Did that do anything? And I've seen modified masks from all the films, and at the time the masks in 5 and I guess 6, also were like the most I'd ever seen a mask modified, like as far as having the ultra white chin like shoved down inside the chin, to give the mouth more structure and make it stick out a little bit more. At the time, that was like most modified I'd ever seen the mask, but this is like insane. It's like that times 10. It's pretty freaking crazy what's going on inside of that mask. So yeah, we'll be doing a video on that. Also, we'll be doing a video on this guy soon. Just got this back finally, if any of you saw that. I won't go into super details because I'll save it for the video, but this is my Hero Scream 4 mask that was gifted to me by Wes for helping on the movie, and he signed it to me, personalized it. And I had some work done to it that was not nothing that we'll get into it in the video. There's been some posts on the group, so some of you may know what I had done to it, but I'm really super happy with it. Wade and Joe really outdid themselves, and yeah, it's freaking awesome. So look for that video coming soon. Imagine if they should. Oh, save that mask for a stream where we both talk. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Actually, what I can do, we can do that on a stream, talk about it, and I'll wait till after we do that to drop the video where I talk about like what was done to it, what the work I had done to it was, how it was done, which is insane. Completely insane. Do I think they'll ever bring back the HHN type ghost face masks, like the non-glow ones? That's my most wanted mask. Probably not. Those were just special just for that, if I'm not mistaken. And I know that it's RJ's favorite mask, I believe. I think he believes that that's like the best mask, ghost face mask they've ever made. I don't see them redoing them though. I think it would kind of take away the point of them being limited edition. Much as I love the look of Gen 1/6, Scream 4 mask is low-key my favorite looking. Yeah, I like it. I love the Scream 4 mask. Yeah, they've got a great look. I wish this wasn't like blurry. Let's see if I can turn it a little bit. It just makes it worse. Anyways, we'll do a video on that soon, and we'll show it in a stream soon. But definitely, we'll have a lot more to say about that mask soon. You guys will get to see what work was done to it and how it's being now finally properly displayed and preserved thanks to the work. Are we meant to believe that young Sydney discovered her mom's body and just happened to see Billy in Cotton's jacket, but from behind? So it looks like it's Cotton leaving. Yeah. I believe so. I mean, they talk about that in the first Scream. I mean, she says, I saw him leave wearing it. And she says, no, you saw someone leave wearing that coat. The same someone who planted it in Cotton's car, framing him. And again, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, if you look at the news footage of Cotton Weary in that movie, he's got the exact same haircut that Billy has. So, I've always pictured it in my head as like, it's dark. Sydney makes the discovery. I don't know if it's before or after she makes the discovery, but basically it's dark. She looks out her window. She sees somebody walking away with that jacket, with the hair, discovers her mom dead, or discovers her mom dead and then sees this. But, then later is able to identify, no, it's Cotton. That's who I saw leaving. Like, yeah, it's him. You said they have the exact same hair. Yeah, Tim says HHN was something that was a one-off. RJ was 100% on that mask. Yep. RJ's always told me that that's his favorite mask that they've ever made. How did they manage to find Cotton's car? They would have had to follow him for weeks. I don't know what you mean by that. I mean, if Cotton was a suspect, assuming he lived in Woodsboro, they would have just went to his house the next day, probably, and found the bloody jacket in his car and said, oh, and then, you had sex with her too, so you must have raped her and killed her. Like, that's what I think anyways. Did you ever think anything of the line Sid tells Gail in 5 about Billy Loomis being the one who started all this when it was actually Roman who did? I have. I have never personally looked at Roman as the mastermind of everything. And I use his own words to kind of back that up. I know it's popular for people to say that Roman was the mastermind and did, everything. He was the mastermind. He came up with all this. This is all because of him, which I know Sydney does say. Granted, she does say in Scream 3, this is all because of you. I will give you that. However, again, I use Roman's own words against that, where he literally says himself, it's like, I'm a director, Sid. I direct. I had no idea that they were going to make a film of their own. I think that speaks volumes to the fact that Roman wasn't the mastermind of anything. He didn't come up with Ghostface. He didn't come up with the whole like calling them on the phone and all that stuff. And it wasn't even his idea for them to go on this massive killing spree. Roman convinced Billy to murder Maureen and gave him a few pointers like, hey, get a partner, get someone to help you. And then that way, if you get caught, you can just say it was them. That was it. Roman just basically talked Billy into murdering Maureen. And that was the end of it. They go their separate ways. Then on their own, Billy and Stu mastermind this whole big elaborate murder spree to now kill more people, kill Sydney, do it like the horror movie trivia, the calls, the voice changer, the Ghostface costume, all that. So I never looked at Roman as like the mastermind of why all this is. I guess if you want to trace it all back, sure. did he start that, like them down that path? Yeah, but again, Roman said himself, I had no idea they were going to make a film of their own. You know, he's basically saying like, look, I just talked them into killing your mom. That was it. I didn't know they were going to go on this crazy killing spree and wear a costume and do all this crazy shit that would inspire a movie that would then inspire another, you know, murder spree. And, you know, I had no idea any of that was going to happen. So that's what I think about that. I think them just making her saying that in 5, like that Billy started all this or whatever, you know, I think that's more what Sydney was referring to. The fact that, like, you know, what they did after the Marine stuff. Billy and Stu, if they planted his jacket in his car, surely they would have had stalked him in order to find him. They probably knew where he lived before that. I mean, if Roman comes to them with all this footage being like, hey, look, she's sleeping with your dad, and oh, she's also sleeping with Cotton Weary and all these men, she's just a big whore, like killer, whatever he says, you know, again, Woodsboro is a small town, very small town. They probably already knew where Cotton lived. I doubt they would have had to stalk him for weeks to find his car. They probably just already knew before they did it. They already knew who he was. They already knew where he lived, and they had already planned it out. Like, okay, oh, he left his jacket here. Perfect. Let's go plant this in his car and frame him while we're at it. You know, that might not even been part of the original plan. They could have just been like, dude, dumbass left his jacket here. Let's go plant it like at his house or on his car, in his car or something. What is up, Chris? In Scream 7, why does everyone keep saying Ghostface burned down Stu's house when Amber's family purchased the house in Scream 5? So technically it's Amber's house. I think it's just easier to say it's Stu's house because that's what it's most known for. And clearly Amber doesn't live there anymore. Number one, because she's dead. Number two, her family clearly doesn't live there anymore either because the house is now an Airbnb that's made up to like celebrate where all these murders took place. So I think it's just that's why everyone refers to it as Stu's. I don't think anyone will ever refer to it as Amber's house. I think that's always going to be Stu's house. Yes, another killer lived there, Amber, after the fact, but I think it's always going to be known as Stu's house. Plus, I don't remember anybody in 7. You said in Scream 7, why does everyone keep saying Ghostface burned down Stu's house? I don't remember in any of the trailers anybody specifically saying that Stu's house was burned down. I think fans are saying that. Fans are calling it Stu's house, but they've always called it Stu's house. What's up? Talking Chucky podcast. Nice. Regardless of what happens with 7, I just hope the motive and killers have a good enough reason to be doing this shit again. The reveal in 6. Yeah, if you weren't here earlier, I talked a little bit about that I would have preferred the original idea for 6, which was basically the same, only it was a family doing it, but it wasn't Richie's family. It was just a family of conspiracy theory nut jobs that really truly believed this conspiracy that Sam was responsible. Yes, it will always be called Stu's. Exactly. All right, guys. Well, almost on 2 hours here. So I'm going to wrap it up, I think. And we'll do this again soon. And like I said, look out. We'll be dropping a video as well as talking about this on a stream soon. I've got some other stuff to show and talk about that I haven't shown and talked about yet. I got some non-related or non-Scream related videos coming soon. One of them is a screen use prop from a movie that I've never seen anything pop up from ever. I got that to show and talk about. It's pretty crazy. I think even if you aren't a fan of this movie, you'll want to check it out because it's pretty crazy. So, all right, guys. Take care. See you on the next one. Thanks for joining me. Peace out, everybody.